For a moment there, it really seemed like we had a breakthrough. A fragile peace deal between the US and Iran, a brief pause after some really brutal fighting. But just a day and a half in, it's already on the brink of total collapse. So what went so wrong so fast? The whole idea, brokered in Pakistan, was for a 2-week ceasefire, just long enough to cool things down and hopefully pave the way for real long-term peace talks. For millions of people in the region, it was the first chance at a peaceful night's sleep in weeks. Yeah. Well, that relief was incredibly short-lived. We're talking less than 2 days before the whole thing started to unravel. Accusations started flying, violations were reported, and the violence kicked off again, leaving everyone wondering if that peace was just an illusion to begin with. And a huge part of the problem seems to be this massive gap between what was being announced publicly and what was actually happening on the ground. I mean, you had the White House projecting total confidence. President Trump himself called it a complete and total victory. That sets a pretty high bar for success, right? But behind the scenes, the foundation of the deal was already crumbling over a really fundamental disagreement. So the first major domino to fall was Lebanon. This wasn't some minor detail. It was a firestorm waiting to happen. For Iran, Lebanon is home to its most powerful ally, Hezbollah. But for Israel, it's a massive security threat right on its northern border. The stakes couldn't be higher. And here is the absolute core of the issue. You have two completely different stories. The US and Israel are adamant, saying, hey, we never said the deal applied to Lebanon. Meanwhile, Iran and the Pakistani brokers are saying, yes, it absolutely did. This wasn't a small misunderstanding. This was a deal-breaking conflict from the word go. And that disagreement? It had an immediate and tragic result. That number, 245. That's the number of people killed in a ferocious series of Israeli strikes on Hezbollah in Lebanon. And these attacks began just hours after the ceasefire was supposed to have started. The White House position on this is crystal clear. They are putting the blame for the deal's potential collapse squarely on Iran. As you can see from the vice president, their argument is basically, we never promised anything on Lebanon, and if Iran wants to blow up the whole deal over it, that's on them. So at the exact same time all this is re-erupting over Lebanon, a second major crisis was unfolding in one of the most critical waterways on the planet. And just as a quick refresher for anybody who needs it, the Strait of Hormuz is a huge deal. It's this narrow little choke point where a massive chunk of the world's oil has to pass through. So if you control the strait, you have immense leverage over the entire global economy. And this is the standoff. The US is demanding the strait be reopened, period. But Iran's story is a little different. They're saying, well, it's technically open, but it's also mined, and any ship that wants to get through has to coordinate with them first. So for all practical purposes, it's still a blockade. You have to remember, a key requirement for this deal from the president's perspective was reopening that strait. So with that not happening, he put out this really stark warning on social media, making it clear that there would be serious consequences. Now, you might be thinking this is all happening thousands of miles away, but the failure of this ceasefire is already having very real consequences, far beyond the Middle East. The economic fallout is hitting us right here at home. All this uncertainty is directly impacting prices. We're looking at an expected jump in inflation of almost a full percentage point in March. That's a direct hit to your wallet. And the conflict isn't just being fought with ships and missiles, it's being waged in cyberspace. Federal officials are putting out warnings that hackers linked to Iran are actively targeting critical US infrastructure. We're talking our energy grids, our water systems, and some of these attacks have already caused real-world disruptions. There's also the diplomatic fallout. President Trump has been really open about his disappointment with NATO allies, feeling like they weren't supportive enough during the war. And that's creating a pretty significant rift with some of America's oldest partners. So, with a ceasefire in tatters and new threats popping up every day, you have to ask, where do we possibly go from here? Can those peace talks scheduled for this weekend even happen anymore? When you look at it, there are three massive roadblocks. First, Iran says it won't even come to the table unless Israel stops its attacks in Lebanon. Israel says, no way, we're not stopping. Second, the US is demanding the Strait of Hormuz be opened, and Iran is refusing. And third, they're on completely opposite sides of the nuclear enrichment issue. Honestly, any one of these could derail the whole process. So here we are. Both sides are digging in on positions they say are non-negotiable before talks have even begun. With the shooting continuing and these core issues more polarized than ever, it feels like the path to peace is just vanishing right before our eyes.